90 men staring at one. January 29th, 1945. 2:47 p.m., Holzheim, Belgium. Snow blankets the village like a burial shroud. The cold is sharp enough to bite through woolen skin. Every breath hangs in the air, heavy and visible. First Sergeant Leonard Funk turns the corner of a farmhouse and stops dead. In front of him stands a scene so wrong, so sudden, that his mind struggles to process it. 90 German soldiers are staring straight at him. Half of them already have weapons in their hands. The other half are bending down, picking up rifles from a pile lying in the snow. And between them, kneeling helplessly on the frozen ground, are 4 American soldiers, their hands locked behind their heads. For a split second, time seems to pause, because Funk instantly understands something terrifying. This is not supposed to be happening. These Germans were prisoners 20 minutes ago. 80 of them had been captured during Company C's assault on the village. They were guarded by only 4 men, not because that was enough, but because that was all the manpower available. War doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It forces decisions with whatever is left. Now the prisoners are free. Now they are armed. Now they are organizing fast, efficiently, like soldiers who have done this before. They are preparing to attack Company C from the rear. If that happens, if 90 armed Germans strike while the Americans are scattered throughout the village clearing resistance, it won't be a battle. It will be a massacre. A German officer steps forward. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't speak calmly. He shoves an MP-40 submachine gun into Funk's stomach and screams something in German. Funk doesn't understand a word. He doesn't speak German. Neither do any of the Americans. The officer screams again, louder this time. His face turns red. Veins stand out along his neck. He is furious that this American isn't immediately complying. Funk looks around. 90 Germans, 4 disarmed Americans on their knees, a machine pistol pressed into his gut. The math is simple. There is no winning this fight. The rational response, the safe response, is surrender. But Funk has already learned something in this war. Surrender doesn't always mean survival. And then, instead of raising his hands, Leonard Funk starts laughing. Not a nervous chuckle, not a forced grin. Real laughter. It spills out of him uncontrollably, as if something about the moment is so absurd that his body reacts before his mind can stop it. The German officer freezes. Confusion flashes across his face, quickly replaced by rage. He screams again. Funk laughs harder, shoulders shaking, breath breaking, completely unafraid, or at least completely unwilling to show it. Later, Funk would say he didn't plan to laugh. He tried to stop. He couldn't. Something about the officer shouting in German, something about the sheer insanity of the situation, triggered it. Whatever the reason, the effect is devastating. This isn't how prisoners behave. Prisoners beg. They plead. They freeze. They don't laugh while a gun is pressed into their stomach. Some of the German soldiers begin to exchange looks. A few even start laughing themselves, unsure of what they're witnessing. The tension warps into something strange, unstable. And in that moment of hesitation, those few priceless seconds, Leonard Funk makes his decision. Still laughing, he slowly reaches toward his Thompson submachine gun, slung over his shoulder. The German officer watches closely. Good. The American is finally surrendering his weapon. Funk's hand closes around the grip. He begins to unsling it, slowly, deliberately. The officer relaxes. And then, in one violent motion, faster than thought, Funk swings the Thompson down, brings the muzzle level, and pulls the trigger. What happens next takes less than 60 seconds. 21 German soldiers will die. The rest will throw down their weapons and surrender. And Leonard Funk will earn the Medal of Honor for one of the most unbelievable acts of combat in World War II. All because he couldn't stop laughing. But to understand how a man ends up laughing in the face of 90 enemies, you have to understand who Leonard Funk was and where he came from. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. was born on August 27, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, a steel town lined with smokestacks and foundries along the Monongahela River, 8 miles east of Pittsburgh. It was a place where childhood ended early. Responsibility came fast. Hardship came faster. By the time Funk graduated high school in 1934, he had already spent years caring for his younger brother. The Great Depression was grinding into its fifth year. Jobs were scarce. College was a fantasy. Then in June 1941, with war raging across Europe and Asia, Congress expanded the draft. Funk's number came up. He reported to the induction center in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. He was 24 years old, 5 feet 5 inches tall, and weighed 140 pounds. The Army physical examiner probably looked at him and thought, clerical duty. They were wrong, because Funk volunteered for the paratroopers. In 1941, American airborne forces barely existed. The idea of jumping out of aircraft behind enemy lines sounded like suicide to most soldiers. But the volunteers weren't most soldiers. They never were. 1:30 a.m. The C-47 shudders violently as German flak explodes around it. Funk stands in the stick. One of the paratroopers lined up to jump, 60 pounds of equipment strapped to his body, an M1A1 Thompson, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit. The aircraft is flying at 400 feet, far too low for a safe jump, but the pilots can't climb. German anti-aircraft fire is everywhere. Tracers arc through the darkness like angry fireflies. Shrapnel pings off the fuselage. The Normandy airborne operation involves 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Their mission is critical: land behind the beaches, seize bridges and crossroads, and block German reinforcements. Almost nothing goes according to plan. The green light snaps on. Funk jumps. The prop blast hits him like a truck. Then the chute deploys, and suddenly the world goes quiet. Below him is occupied France. Enemy territory in every direction. 1:30 a.m. The C-47 shudders violently as German flak explodes around it. Funk stands in the stick. One of the paratroopers lined up to jump, 60 pounds of equipment strapped to his body, an M1A1 Thompson, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit. The aircraft is flying at 400 feet, far too low for a safe jump, but the pilots can't climb. German anti-aircraft fire is everywhere. Tracers arc through the darkness like angry fireflies. Shrapnel pings off the fuselage. The Normandy airborne operation involves 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Their mission is critical: land behind the beaches, seize bridges and crossroads, and block German reinforcements. Almost nothing goes according to plan. The green light snaps on. Funk jumps. The prop blast hits him like a truck. Then the chute deploys, and suddenly the world goes quiet. Below him is occupied France. Enemy territory in every direction. September 17, 1944. Holland. Operation Market Garden begins. The largest airborne assault in history. 35,000 paratroopers drop into the Netherlands to seize a chain of bridges across the Rhine. If it works, the Allies will be inside Germany by Christmas. Field Marshal Montgomery's plan is bold. Maybe too bold. Everything depends on speed, on surprise, on nothing going wrong. Everything goes wrong. British airborne troops at Arnhem land directly on top of SS Panzer divisions that were never supposed to be there. For 9 days, they fight street to street. Only 2,000 of 10,000 men escape. The phrase "a bridge too far" enters military history. Leonard Funk doesn't know any of this. He only knows his mission. After landing, his company secures their objectives. Standard airborne work until Funk notices something that isn't part of the plan. 3 German 20mm anti-aircraft guns are firing into the sky. They are targeting incoming Allied gliders. Gliders carrying reinforcements, artillery, ammunition, medical supplies. If those guns keep firing, hundreds of men will die before they even reach the ground. The gun position is dug in on high ground near Nijmegen. Roughly 20 German soldiers, sandbags, camouflage, overlapping fields of fire. Funk has 3 men. Doctrine says you need a 3-to-1 advantage to assault a fortified position. Funk is outnumbered 7-to-1. He attacks anyway. Leading from the front, Funk and his 3-man patrol storm the position. They kill the security detachment, overrun the gun pits, and neutralize all 3 weapons. 20 Germans, 3 Americans. The guns fall silent. The gliders land safely. For this, Funk earns the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest award for valor in the U.S. Army. Now he holds a Silver Star and a DSC. Most soldiers who earn even one are remembered as heroes. Leonard Funk is still not finished. The men who volunteered for the airborne were not normal soldiers. They couldn't be. In 1941, becoming a paratrooper meant accepting a simple truth: the Army was going to try to break you. Airborne training was not about learning tactics first. It was about stripping men down, physically and mentally, until only discipline and stubbornness remained. 5 weeks of relentless punishment, endless running, obstacle courses designed to exhaust, climbing, falling, crawling, carrying weight until legs failed and lungs burned. More than half the candidates washed out. Then came the jump towers, steel skeletons rising into the sky, practice exits, practice falls, practice fear, and finally, the aircraft. The first time a man stands in the open door of a C-47 Skytrain at 1,200 feet, every instinct screams the same command: don't jump. The wind tears at your face. The ground looks impossibly far away. Your parachute is nothing but fabric, cord, and faith. Leonard Funk jumped anyway. He earned his jump wings. He was assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, training at Camp Blanding, Florida. In late 1943, the 508th shipped to England and joined the legendary 82nd Airborne Division, the All-Americans. These men were already veterans. They had jumped into combat. They had killed. They had watched friends die in Sicily and Italy. Funk was the new guy. At 27 years old, he was considered old by paratrooper standards. Most of the men around him were barely 20, but Funk had something they didn't. Not speed, not size, not bravado, maturity, a calm steadiness, a quiet competence that made men trust him without being told to. By D-Day, he was a squad leader. Soon after, he would be acting company executive officer. But first, he had to survive Normandy. One day into the offensive, a convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion moves near the Bonnier Crossroads. They run straight into the spearhead of Kampfgruppe Piper, an SS armored battle group. The Americans aren't frontline infantry. They're artillery observers, radio operators, support personnel. They aren't equipped to fight tanks and armored infantry. After a brief firefight, 113 Americans surrender. They're herded into a farmer's field. Hands up, disarmed, prisoners of war. Then the SS opens fire. Machine guns, rifles, pistols. The Americans are shot down like cattle. Men who try to run are cut down. Wounded men are executed with shots to the head. 84 Americans die in the snow. Some survive by playing dead, lying motionless for hours as German boots crunch past them, as German voices laugh nearby. When darkness finally falls, 43 survivors crawl away and reach American lines. The news spreads like wildfire. The Germans are executing prisoners. Something fundamental breaks. Before Malmedy, there were rules, unwritten, unofficial, but real. When a situation was hopeless, men surrendered. Prisoners were treated according to the Geneva Convention. There was a grim professionalism between enemies. After Malmedy, the rules are gone. American soldiers swear they will never surrender to the SS. Some units pass down quiet orders. No SS prisoners. When Leonard Funk hears what happened, something inside him hardens. He has already seen too much. Normandy, Holland, friends dying in fields and forests across Europe. But this is different. This is murder. Cold-blooded execution of men who surrendered in good faith. In that moment, Leonard Funk makes a decision. He will never surrender to the Germans, no matter the cost. That decision will matter very soon. By late January, the German offensive has been broken. Now the Allies push back. Company C, 508th Parachute Infantry, receives orders to capture the Belgian village of Holzheim. There's a problem. Company C is understrength. The executive officer, second in command, has been killed. They don't have enough infantry for the assault. Leonard Funk is now the acting executive officer. He looks at the depleted roster and makes a decision. He walks into company headquarters. Inside are clerks, supply personnel, cooks, men whose war has mostly been paperwork and logistics. Funk doesn't sugarcoat it. "You're infantry now," he tells them. "Grab your weapons. We're taking that village." He forms a makeshift platoon. 30 men, most of whom have never fired a shot at another human being. It doesn't matter. He needs bodies. He'll turn them into soldiers. The march is 15 miles through waist-deep snow in a driving blizzard. Temperatures well below freezing. German artillery shells crash around them. Harassing fire snaps in from the flanks. Funk leads from the front. They reach Holzheim. 15 houses, Germans and everyone. Machine guns, rifles, grenades. Funk and his men clear the village house by house. 30 prisoners captured, not one American casualty. Another unit captures 50 more Germans on the far side of town. 80 prisoners total. They're herded into the yard of a farmhouse. Funk looks at his men. They've been marching and fighting for hours. There's still resistance elsewhere in the village. Scattered German soldiers who haven't surrendered yet. He can spare only 4 men to guard the prisoners. "Keep them here," Funk tells them. "We'll send reinforcements when we can." Then he turns and heads back into the fight. He has no idea what's about to happen behind him. December 16th, 1944. Before dawn, the Germans launched their last desperate gamble. 3 armies, 400,000 men, E-400 tanks, E-900 artillery pieces. They crashed through the American lines in the Ardennes forest, driving west toward the port of Antwerp. Hitler's plan is reckless, almost insane. Split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace in the West so Germany can focus everything against the Soviets. Against all logic, it nearly works. The attack slams into thinly held American sectors, units pulled off the line to rest, green troops with little combat experience, exhausted veterans at half strength. Entire divisions collapse. Thousands of Americans surrender. A massive bulge forms in the Allied front, 50 miles deep. The Battle of the Bulge becomes the largest battle the U.S. Army will fight in World War II. By the time it ends, 89,000 American casualties will be counted, and the weather is as deadly as the enemy. Snow, ice, temperatures plunging to 5 degrees below zero. Men freeze to death in foxholes. Weapons jam. Vehicles refuse to start. Frostbite claims fingers, toes, and lives. Then comes Malmedy. While Leonard Funk is clearing the remaining resistance in Holzheim, danger is already moving behind him. A German patrol approaches the farmhouse where the prisoners are being held. 10 men, maybe 20. They are wearing white camouflage capes, blending perfectly into the snow. In the chaos of battle, they look almost identical to American troops moving through the village. The 4 American guards don't realize the mistake until it's far too late. The Germans rush them. The guards are overwhelmed, disarmed, and forced to their knees in the snow. Then the patrol frees the prisoners. 80 German soldiers, plus the patrol, 90 men total. They grab rifles from the pile on the ground. Ammunition is distributed. Orders are shouted. Positions are assigned. These aren't frightened prisoners anymore. They are soldiers again. And they know exactly what they're about to do. Attack Company C from the rear. The American paratroopers are scattered throughout the village. If 90 armed Germans strike now, the fight will be over before it begins. The German officer in charge, likely a lieutenant or captain, starts issuing commands. Machine guns here, riflemen there. Wait for the signal. Everything is ready. And then Leonard Funk walks around the corner. Funk has come back to check on the prisoners. Routine. Make sure the guards are still in place. See if reinforcements have arrived. He isn't expecting what he sees. His 4 guards are kneeling in the snow. The prisoners are armed. German soldiers are everywhere. For a fraction of a second, the world freezes. The German officer spots Funk immediately. The first sergeant stripes on his sleeve mark him as a leader, a valuable prisoner. The officer strides forward, jams his MP-40 into Funk's stomach, and screams in German, "Surrender!" Funk doesn't understand the words. The officer screams again, louder. Funk looks around. 90 Germans, 4 Americans helpless on their knees. One other American soldier beside him, equally trapped. There is no escape. There is no backup. The odds are 90-1. Any rational man would surrender. But Funk remembers Malmedy. He remembers 84 Americans murdered in a field after surrendering, shot, executed, left to freeze in the snow. He has already made his choice. He will never surrender. And instead of raising his hands, Leonard Funk starts laughing. No one knows exactly why he laughed. Maybe it was deliberate, a way to confuse the enemy and steal time. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was the absurdity of it all. An officer screaming in a language Funk couldn't understand. A gun in his stomach. 90 men waiting to kill him. Whatever the reason, the effect is immediate. The German officer hesitates. This isn't how prisoners behave. Some of the German soldiers glance at each other. A few even begin to laugh themselves. The tension fractures. The officer screams again. Funk laughs harder, bending forward, shoulders shaking. "I don't understand what he's saying," Funk calls out. For a few precious seconds, the German officer doesn't know what to do, and Funk uses those seconds. Still appearing to comply, he slowly reaches for his Thompson submachine gun, slung over his shoulder. The officer watches closely. Good. The American is finally surrendering his weapon. Funk's hand grips the Thompson. He begins to unsling it, slowly, carefully. Then everything happens at once. In one fluid motion, Funk swings the Thompson down, snaps the muzzle into line, and pulls the trigger. The M101 Thompson fires 45 caliber rounds at 600 rounds per minute. At this distance, each bullet hits like a sledgehammer. The first burst slams into the German officer's chest. 30 rounds in less than 3 seconds. The officer is dead before he hits the ground. Funk doesn't stop. He can't. The moment he fires, there is no retreat, only victory or death. He pivots, spraying an arc of lead into the nearest Germans. Men scream, men fall. Blood splashes across the white snow. Brass casings fly through the air, steaming in the cold. The magazine runs dry. This is the most dangerous moment. A Thompson takes 2 seconds to reload. 2 seconds is an eternity in a firefight. 2 seconds is long enough for 90 men to kill one. Funk rips the empty magazine out, slams a fresh one in, racks the bolt, and keeps firing. Muscle memory takes over. At the same time, he's shouting to his men, "Pick up their weapons! Pick up their weapons!" The 4 guards scramble from their knees, grabbing rifles dropped by dead Germans. Seconds ago, they were prisoners. Now they are fighting for their lives. The Germans are in chaos. Their officer is dead. The laughing American is killing them. No one is giving orders. Some Germans fire back. Bullets crack past Funk's head. One round kills the American soldier standing beside him. Funk keeps moving, keeps firing. His guards fire too. The ambush has become a slaughter. In less than 60 seconds, it's over. 21 German soldiers lie dead in the snow. 24 more are wounded. The rest, more than 40, drop their weapons and raise their hands. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the center of the carnage, smoke curling from his Thompson, surrounded by bodies. He looks at his men and says quietly, "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." Leonard Funk leaves World War II as the most decorated paratrooper of the conflict. Medal of Honor, Holzheim, Distinguished Service Cross, Holland, Silver Star, Normandy, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service, 3 Purple Hearts, wounded 3 separate times, plus foreign decorations, France's Croix de Guerre, Belgium's Order of Leopold, the Netherlands' Military Order of William, their equivalent of the Victoria Cross, a 5'5" former store clerk from Pennsylvania, becomes a living symbol of American valor. And then the war ends. Leonard Funk goes home. He does not write a book. He does not go on speaking tours. He does not turn his Medal of Honor into a career, a brand, or a political platform. He returns to Pennsylvania and takes a job with the Veterans Administration. Clerical work, paperwork, claims processing, helping other veterans navigate bureaucracy, disability forms, and red tape. For 27 years, he sits behind a desk doing quiet, necessary work for men who gave pieces of themselves to the war and came home needing help. He rises through the ranks, becomes division chief of the Pittsburgh Regional Office, earns a steady salary, builds a pension. He marries Gertrude. They have 2 daughters. They live in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, a working-class town not far from where he grew up. The medals are kept somewhere safe. He almost never talks about them. When people ask about Holzheim, about the laughing, about the 90 Germans, Funk shrugs. Did what I had to do. That's all he ever says. November 20th, 1992, Braddock Hills, Pennsylvania. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. dies of cancer at 76 years old. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, grave 23734, among the heroes of every American war. At the time of his death, he is the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the 82nd Airborne Division of World War II. A fitness center at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, is named after him. A highway in Pennsylvania bears his name. A post office in McKeesport is dedicated to him in 2023. And yet, most people have never heard of Leonard Funk. They know Audie Murphy. They know Alvin York. They don't know the short, quiet paratrooper who laughed at 90 Germans and lived. War does not favor the biggest. It does not favor the strongest. It does not even favor the fearless. War favors the ones who keep thinking when everyone else has stopped. At Holzheim, Leonard Funk had every reason to surrender. The math was impossible. 90 against 1. A gun in his stomach. His men already captured. But Funk wasn't thinking about the math. He was thinking about Malmedy, about 84 Americans murdered after surrendering, about the 4 guards on their knees, about the soldiers scattered across the village who would be slaughtered from behind. So he laughed, maybe as a tactic, maybe from stress, maybe because the situation was so absurd it broke through fear itself. And while the enemy hesitated, Leonard Funk acted. 60 seconds later, he was alive when he should have been dead. That is courage, not size. Not strength, not bravado. Courage is what you do when there's a gun in your stomach and 90 men want you dead. The aftermath is almost anticlimactic. Company C secures Holzheim. The surviving German prisoners, this time under heavy guard, are marched to the rear. The snow is trampled with boot prints, shell casings, and blood that slowly darkens in the cold. Leonard Funk reports the incident to his commanding officer. No dramatics, no embellishment, just facts. Another firefight, another day in the war. But stories like this don't stay quiet. Word spreads through the regiment, then the division, then across the 82nd Airborne. The tale hardens into legend. The sergeant who laughed at 90 Germans and killed 21 of them with a Tommy gun. When the Medal of Honor recommendation reaches Washington, no one argues. No one questions it. What happened at Holzheim is witnessed, documented, undeniable. The official citation is blunt and precise. He was ordered to surrender by a German officer who pushed a machine pistol into his stomach. Although overwhelmingly outnumbered and facing almost certain death, First Sergeant Funk, pretending to comply, began slowly to unsling his submachine gun from his shoulder, and then, with lightning motion, brought the muzzle into line and riddled the German officer. It goes on. He then turned upon the other Germans, firing and shouting to the other Americans to seize the enemy's weapons. On September 5, 1945, at the White House, President Harry Truman places the Medal of Honor around Leonard Funk's neck. Truman looks at him and says words that will be repeated for generations. "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States."